straight off, I'm going to manage your expectations. This talk will not finish with a song, all right? I am a musician, or I was a musician, but I can tell you that it isn't going to happen. I now do a lot of drawing and a lot of writing, and it ain't going to finish with a picture either. But I want you to capture one thing in your mind straight away, and that's 10,000 days. 10,000 days, okay? That's how long you're going to work. 42 years, 5 days a week. Do the maths. It's 10,000 days. God, it better be good, yeah? That experience, working maybe for yourself, maybe working for other people on other people's dreams in their organizations, their buildings, 10,000 days. And, hang on. Shh, what's that? Oh, can you hear it? Yeah, that's the moaning of people, the 80% that Vlatka talked about who work for other businesses who are unhappy in those businesses. 80% of people are unhappy in their experience there. Now, I was at Glastonbury, and I was standing in mud, and I was standing in a tent, and I was listening to the great Labour politician, Tony Benn, great left-wing campaigner, activist, and it was towards the end of his talk, and it was a really awful day. It was raining, we were wet, and he said this amazing moment. He said, look, I used to be a protester, and I used to protest, but I've realized that no one listens to protesters any longer. And we all kind of went, oh, God. And we were wet, and it was kind of, late, and we were standing there. And then he goes, but now I demand that there will be change. I will hold politicians accountable. And what I'm going to talk to you about today is about how artists can come into the business and into businesses, and they're not just a nice thing to have, they're necessary and they're crucial. And what I'm going to tell you about today is going to set up a question in your minds as to who's going to demand this. Is it the leaders, the CEOs? Don't know. Is it the young guns coming into business now who've never experienced any other business? Is it people who've worked for businesses for 23 years? Is it the artists themselves? Is it people outside business? But there's going to be a demand for how we work better and differently within business. And I've titled this talk, The Revolution Looks Like This, and the truth is, it looks like this. This is a revolution. It was a piece of work we did a while back called The Fragrance Revolution. It was for Unilever. But there were a number of things going on here. They were very interested about how their brands, about the fragrance and the fragrance culture of their brands. But then this led to them going, actually, this is really interesting. What do our brands sound like? What are the other senses and the other touch points associated with our brands? Hang on a minute, let's keep going here. Maybe we should think about the experiential nature of our brands in a different way. Maybe we should break the mold, and then you get to the revolution, which is, I'm going to give people permission to start thinking like this. So this was called Fragrance Revolution. This happened 7 years ago, so this is quite an old piece of work by my kind of standards. But the critical thing for me about this is that when we live by and through our senses, we are more fully ourselves. It's a truth. We know it to be true. And when work allows you, businesses, allows you to live through your senses, then you're not only being more fully yourself, you're doing better work. So it makes a great deal of sense to actually bring a lot of the senses in. The people who delivered this kind of work were a whole army of artists. So you can imagine there were perfumers, there were designers, there were musicians, all coming together to help drive this one thing, which really was about permission. So it occurred to me, and this is a really relevant slide today, to go, how do you become a corporate rebel? If, let's say, I am a corporate rebel, and I'm very honored to be here under this umbrella, what's happened? So please, and as I look at this slide, I'm going, oh my God, it looks like the BBC is a monkey. It's not. That's me. So you get it, yeah? I'm the top line. I'm the one that's kind of going from kind of little, and gradually I'm up and I'm walking. But all these different organizations have taught me something. And I always talk about, yeah, it's very important I mention that with the BBC at the moment. What's happening is that I've learned a whole series of different things which I think have led me to this place. So I've had contact with all the arts, not just music, being a musician, and that was through the BBC. At Sainsbury's, I learned the language of business and the language of arts. At the London College of Music and Media, I was Dean of Faculty, so I understood how to pass on knowledge and information to another generation. Catalyst was the big project, I'll speak about it a little later, at Unilever, which brought in a whole range of different artists into the workplace to strategically shift the whole mindset of that business. Creamer and Lloyd and Eyes Wide Open are two of my current businesses, but what I'm learning here is that everybody is creative. You might not label yourself as creative, but you are, and I will show you that later. And Eyes Wide Open we will end with. But what it's taught me is that over 25 years, as Rangvald said, I don't have a title. And maybe this is one of the clues about being a corporate rebel. Maybe you shouldn't have a title. There was a guy who used to work for British Airways, I think was called the corporate jester. And it sounds such a great job. You know, you'd go in and you'd create havoc at board meetings. But he's no longer here. So that's interesting. So maybe the thought is, don't have a title. And I'm not sure I do. I do lots of roles. I'm a trainer, I'm a guide, I'm a coach, I'm a translator, I'm an ideas man, I'm an artist. But I don't think I have a specific title, and I'm cool with that. I know everyone kind of needs a title, but I don't. But what I do, and what all these different opportunities have given me, is that I have seen, and I continue to see the arts as a university, like an alternative university which I bring into business. And it allows businesses to pick and choose the different people to answer specific business issues. It's really tough business sense with a great creative process attached to it. Now, this is what I think business should be like. Yeah? It's a market. It's an exchange. You're bartering. You're bargaining. There's a lot of dialogue between people. But the truth is, a lot of businesses don't feel like this. A lot of businesses feel like a supermarket. It's very controlled, very ordered. We've heard stories about that earlier on today. And I think we go to work for a number of things. We go to work, hopefully, to do a piece of work and for that work to be meaningful and to have a higher purpose, perhaps. And we also go to work, certainly, because we enjoy meeting and interacting with people and a community. But I think there are three things going on about why we want to work and what we want to get out of work, which really strongly suggests that the creative thinkers, the creative minds, the artists need to be present in the workplace as well. And the first is our search for identity. I think we go to work to discover a little bit about who we are. You know, we spend 10,000 days, my God, I better discover something about myself, you know, and what I stand for. So work is about identity, my personal identity. I think secondly, we go to work definitely because we have a thirst for knowledge and a thirst for learning about new stuff. And thirdly, I think we go to work, and this is one of the most important points I want to make today, because we have a need to express ourselves. We have a voice. We want that voice to be heard in the workplace, certainly. We want to instigate a dialogue with someone else. We want a response. So expression and self-expression, allowing you to be heard within work, is critical. And artists over the ages, and particularly the projects that I've been working on in recent years, we've found that this is one of the major insights that really engages people, their ability to be heard within their business. And there's a lovely quote from Ben Okri which goes, "We are more than the jobs we do. We are the co-makers of this world we live in. I think that's great. That's what it's about. So, this was a quote. I was in Silicon Valley, and I can't remember, so I won't sort of put a name to it on kind of because I'll get sued. But it was one of the big businesses there. Somebody in one of the big businesses said this to us on a big trip there, and it was kind of like an apology. He sort of said, hey, but change will never be this slow again. And you kind of go, oh, it feels so fast, but it's going to get faster. And for this talk, I was speaking to a chief executive. I said, how would you describe your business now? And he went, I'll give you 3 words. He said, it's intense. Business today is intense. It's insecure. And it's instant. And by that, I think he was talking about intensity. There's so much complexity. There's so much speed. Insecurity. We're so unsure. We're vulnerable. Of course, we can't anticipate. We're not quite sure what the world looks like. And instant, come on, what are the quick wins? How can I quickly improve things? I've got to turn things around in a year. So we're up against that. And so it begins to ask the question, what kind of people will survive and thrive in that kind of working environment? It's intense, it's insecure, it's instant, and change will never be this slow again. Well, you need some fast learners. You need great storytellers, you need great questioners, you need challengers, you need people who've got big ideas who can deliver. You need a kind of rather special group of people. And you're going to have to look after those people. You're going to have to nurture them, allow their identity to form, allow their voice to be heard, allow them to learn. The project I'll talk about very quickly was Catalyst. This was at Unilever. I had no idea what I couldn't do was a little mantra that went round. I can learn anything. There's nothing stopping me learning. It ran for 7 years, and it was the most strategic program of bringing in creative thinkers to solve very specific business issues. And it was great, and it spread throughout Unilever UK and then gradually globally. And I'll just quickly introduce 2 projects before I finish with a kind of manifesto for you. This was a lovely project about how do we speak to each other. And it was called Live and Direct, and if you can't read it, it says, it all starts with me. And this was about how do we have the really tough conversations at work? What are the skills I need? And we were learning some of these from a crisis and hostage negotiator. Really use different creative platforms out there to get the great learning. But having done the skills and the workshops, we used theatre as a mirror back into the business itself to show the business how it was behaving. And then we got the quotes out of people from the workshops. The quotes became beautiful limited edition posters. Great artist called Jamie Starr did these ones. And so they went out there and they became collectible items. And of course, what we did in quoting people, we were giving them a voice. We were allowing people to express themselves at work and be heard. So that was Live and Direct. And what you discover as I tell these stories is that they're multi-layered. They're very rich. And this is how artists work in business. It is very rich and layered, and you can dig down. Quickly, just this one. This was about how we work. A business wanted to explore how we work, so we brought in children. We didn't just bring in children to teach them. We brought in a kids' carnival company. If you've ever worked with a kids' carnival company, I'll tell you, they are so organized. A bit like the conductors we saw. They're just looking and listening. They know who has the responsibility. It's been drummed in them. The way they operate a carnival in procession going around a building or outside is phenomenal. And these kids were teaching this business how to operate as a global team. It was fantastic. And as soon as the business got over the fact that they were being taught by stroppy 15-year-olds, they just went, this is the right way to learn. It was lovely. So, I've got a thought for you about a manifesto. So if you are a leader and you're thinking of leading this kind of change, if you're a young graduate and you want to change the world, if you're an employee and you want to instigate change, if you're an artist and you see the change, if you're someone outside business and you know how to influence change, here are some ideas. I would weave learning into every facet of your business. Every wall is a blackboard, every meeting is a collision of minds, every coffee break is a moment of inspiration. Learning is in everything that you do, and you make it manifest. Environments, physical working environments, are critical to, I think, people being themselves at work. And we know why you want them to be themselves, because they do better work for you. So, environments need to be safe, they need to be neutral, they need to be energizing, they need to be good for working, good for learning. Environments are critical. Artists can play a huge role in making those work for you. You must have a higher purpose and an ambition. Someone said earlier today, be part of something bigger than yourself. You must know that your business, just as Stefan was describing earlier, is part of a higher purpose and has an ambition. Because if you can aim for that, you've got their hearts. They're fine. They're with you. They'll go with you. But again, demonstrate that ambition and that higher purpose. Every year, do something that illustrates that. It's not just in the company report. You bring it to life. I think it's very important to share people's dreams, invest in their dreams. If you're a company that's lucky enough to have resources, to have some time that you can give back to your employees so that their thoughts, their ideas, their dreams can be replicated a little bit and supported by you, brilliant. Values are vital. And companies often fall down because they say, these are our values, our operating principles, but they never live them. Or there's always a disconnect. You've got to connect them. And the way to bring your values to life is sensorially. Have lots of different touch points. Guess what? Bring in some artists. Have a culture of curiosity. Yeah? Intense curiosity. Make sure people are asking questions all the time. If they are, this is good news because you have an open and honest culture. If they are asking more and better, great questions. Constantly inspire, but in your inspiration, surprise. They come in on a Monday and they find things are different. This is good. This is what artists can do for you. Almost there. Long-lived stories. I can't quite say information is dead because I know information is king, but it's actually stories that matter. When we were working in Unilever, it was the finance department who asked us to help them with storytelling, not the marketing people. And finally, it's all about leadership. Teach leadership to younger people, not just the leaders. It's not just about the CEOs. Everybody is a leader in a business. And when you achieve those things, you walk out with your eyes wide open. Thank you.